What is up? I'm Nathan. This is Jeskai Geist. You guys are my loyal and loving YouTube followers. And I'm sure some of you are done with the guy's content, ready for something else, and some of you are loving it. So I'm going to do something different. I'm actually going to switch leagues. We've only done one round. So this is the league that I started, and I actually went 2-3 in that league, which isn't great, and I'll tell you about the matchups because you guys did see the first one. But I just thought, you know what? I'm actually playing another league, and I'm actually playing in that league with the list that I plan to play this weekend, and I feel like it's a little more updated. There's a few things, albeit maybe small, that I feel a little bit more certain about. So if any of you have tournaments this weekend, I'd rather just share with you guys kind of my latest and let you watch that instead of something, at least, again, it's small, but a configuration that I don't plan to play. Okay, so I'm going to do that, but before we jump over to those games, and I think I showed you the deck in the video yesterday, but we'll go back to it. I want to take a second to do another shout out. If you missed it yesterday, I talked about Nick Hansen. He went, I think it was 11-4 or 12-3. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he played in an SCG Modern event last Saturday. I don't know if it was SCG Milwaukee. I guess maybe it was. 650 players, and he managed to get 13th place. Somebody was DQ'd, so it might have been a little bit more like 11th or 12th. I'm really not sure. But if you didn't see that, Nick Hansen played a list very similar to the list that I'm going to play. Actually, it might almost be the same. I know that Nick and I have talked about the deck, and I guess you could say in some ways we collaborated in that. He was able to sort of utilize the testing and the results and the videos to kind of help him come up with the list. And I've actually been, since, not just since then, but I've chatted back and forth a little as well. But obviously, I think Nick's opinions are some that we, all of us that play the deck should take to heart, because clearly he knows how to play Jeskai Geist if he won that many games of Magic at a major event. Okay, so that's Nick. I just wanted to mention him again for those of you who might have missed it. But I also wanted to bring up this guy who tweeted at me. His name's Craig. Craig played an event this weekend, 79-player Swiss. You guys can read, right? Went 6-1. So that was pretty awesome. Congratulations, Craig. And let me just say this. If you do well with a Jeskai Geist deck, maybe something a little bit more than FNM, but hell, I mean, tell me anyway if you do great at FNM. But definitely if it's, this is 7 rounds of Magic, that's nothing, that's not small, that's bigger than, your average FNM, or especially if it's like an SCG event. Send me a tweet, send me a message, and I will be thrilled to post your achievement here on YouTube and give you a mention. So, yeah, so Craig went 6-1 at a 79-player event. This is the list that he played. And the reason I'm showing his... Okay, so there's a way to do this. All right, hold on. That's weird. Okay, got that figured out. Yeah, so Craig's deck, this was his main here. Guess that's a little small. Let me we're doing it live. We'll make it bigger. So it looks pretty. It's I would say it's fairly standard. But he has some interesting things. It looks like he's also adopted the Is It charm. I asked him how it's been performing for him. I haven't heard back yet. I've actually been relatively pleased with it. He's still on the double electrolyze, kind of has the standard set of creatures. I haven't counted his lands. I've been pretty happy with Spellstorm myself. I'm sure he was as well. He is running the 4 Serum Visions. I'm personally a fan of 3. But another interesting card that he ran is Grim Lavamancer. That is a card that I think maybe I should be looking at more before this next event. It's good against a lot of the decks in the format. it is value. It helps you kill larger creatures with your burn. It clears away for Geist. Helps you grind a little bit better. I absolutely think Grim Lavamancer is a great choice. If you had to ask me why I'm not running it, it's just that I just haven't given it as much thought lately. Maybe I want Grim Lavamancer instead of Cryptic Command. Another nice thing about Grim is that a lot of times you're burning your opponent out with this deck. Grim Lavamancer helps you do that. So definitely a cool choice there. Yeah, so that's his main. And you can see here he's in Sketch on Twitter if you want to ask him any questions. I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind. And then this is his sideboard. Looks fine to me. Depending on your meta, I would probably maybe diversify the counter spells. I'm a big fan of Dispel, let me say that. But I just want to try to be prepared for as much as I can. I like the Engineered Explosives. I've always been a fan of 2 in the deck. May not need all the Stony Silence. It just depends on what you're expecting. I mean, if you're expecting a lot of Affinity, Blue-White Thopters, Lantern Control, I think Stony Silence is... Running 3 is at least reasonable. I also like the Surgical Extraction. That's something that I've been toying with, and I like it in theory. I just, in my testing, I haven't really gotten a chance to cast it. It's pretty narrow, but the thing is we don't have any graveyard interaction, and it's always kind of a bummer when you come across a deck that's interacting with their graveyard and there's nothing that you can do. Surgical Extraction can hit things like Chord of Calling, which is very relevant. It also makes if you hit Chord of Calling, it definitely makes their Eternal Witness chains worse. Surgical Extraction is also there. Like, the initial reason I had the idea is actually for Lantern Control, because they mill themselves a lot. A lot of times the way they find it in Snaring Bridge is to mill it and then put it on top of the library with Academy Ruins. The nice thing about Surgical Extraction is you can just get rid of Ensnaring Bridge, and that's really the card that we can't beat. Now, if you have a bad hand and they get a really early lock, then maybe they just lock you out, and even if you get rid of Ensnaring Bridge, you're just never able to draw into anything. But really, it's Ensnaring Bridge that does the real heavy lifting as far as allowing Lantern Control to survive. But some other things is we have Ghost Quarters. You can hit like a Tron piece with it. I'm not sure that you want to necessarily just bring it in against Snapcaster Mage, but it could be relevant to get Scape Shift if you are able to beat one Scape Shift. Then if you Surgical Extract it, you probably don't have to beat anymore. Again, it's probably one of the more narrow sideboard cards, but I just thought that, obviously Griselbrand, it's good against, like random loam decks that you might find. It's probably reasonable against even to bring in against something like Storm. But yeah, so it is definitely more narrow, but a lot of the graveyard decks that we're facing, now not all of them, I mean, it probably doesn't do that much against the Living End. I mean, it could, but Surgical Extraction, that targeted graveyard hate is going to still be really relevant, and obviously, unlike Rest in Peace, it doesn't hurt your Snapcaster Mages. Okay, so that's just talking a little bit more about the deck. Craig, congratulations. Okay, so all that being said, let's go back here. This is the list that I started a league from. Started a league with. I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 videos today, and they should be short because I'm just going to narrate them. But then that will put us on track to finish the league on Friday. So, all right, guys, give me just a second. I'll pull up the video. Oh, before I forget, the league that we started. This one. Okay, so this league, we beat Burn round 1, which all of you guys saw. Or at least some of you probably did. The second match, we beat Infect. But then in the third match, we actually lost to Eldrazi-tron. That matchup was crazy. He just drew everything. We did beat him one game, and in the third game, it was looking kind of good, but I think we took like an Ulamog. We took an Ulamog with his with a Vendilion Click, and our plans were to beat down with that. He ended up drawing into he drew into a World Breaker, and then he drew into an Ugin, and then I still think he managed to then draw like into an Ulamog, and so it was just game 3 was serious beating about the face. And then actually round 4 and 5, that new zoo list is good. I might need that might be the last deck that I expect to see that I'm not sure that I have a. It's not that I don't have a plan. I'm just not sure that the plan is good enough. You would think that we're pretty well positioned against that deck, and I guess we are. But just things like it's difficult to keep pace with the speed with which they flood the board. In some of those games, maybe they had one creature, but then they, and I was killing them, and they untapped and went Burning Tree, Emissary, Goblin, not Bushwhacker, but Reckless Bushwhacker maybe, and just completely wrecked me. So, my plan is just timely reinforcements, anger, explosives. In the other list, I might bring in Wrath of God and just try to lean on my removal as much as I can. The matchup I won, I resolved the timely reinforcements. I do think timely is probably better now than core Firewalker. Unless your meta is specifically traditional burn lists, I think you probably want timely. And timely is also nice because you can bring it against Jund, but with timely, I was able to gain some life, kill 2 creatures, and win the game from there. Okay, so this is the list. Oh, yeah, did I mention twice? Yeah, I lost round 4 and 5. I did mention that. To the same, not the same guy, but the same style of zoo list. This is the deck that I'm currently running in the configuration that I think I'm going to play this weekend at the Bazaar of Mox. And I'm actually also playing Legacy, but I'm kind of taking Legacy less seriously because I'm just not very good at that format. I also don't really. I could have access to for the cards to probably play a more powerful deck, but I don't think I'd play it very well. So I'm probably just going to play Jeskai Stoneblade and just try to have fun. Okay, so videos. It's not really a video; it's a replay. So I'll pull up the replay in a second. Okay, here we are for round 1 of the new league, and like I said, I'll give you guys 2 replays today, and that'll put us on pace to finish the league on Friday. So we're on the play. This hand, it's just really one white source away from being okay. And the reason that I kept it was, even if I was to draw like an island, the hand's not totally dead. I can cast Bolt. If I draw another land, I can snap Bolt. And I have Electrolyze, which could draw me into a white land. So I decided to go ahead and keep this. Opponent's on Affinity, so I was feeling a little worried. Definitely not the hand that I really want to stumble on. But it is what it is. This is kind of interesting because the second Bolt is... it's not exactly what we want, but... it's what we want, but we also need a white source. Okay, so I shocked myself because, obviously we don't want to take damage, but we need to start casting our bolts. We need to start trading with our opponent. One of the ways you can lose to Affinity is if you have a bunch of removal, but it's just executed slowly. You're just not able to kill their creatures as fast as they're able to put them on the battlefield. So a lot of times against Affinity, I will I'm willing to shock myself to get an early bolt off. Now, I'm trying to remember now, why did I bolt the Ornithopter? Because a lot of times Ornithopter doesn't represent any real threat. I thought maybe he might be stumbling on mana. Maybe he didn't play the Mox because he was planning on playing it this turn, like land, Mox, Metalcraft. And just the main reason I did it also was because I'm sort of short on lands. I need to just start killing his things. It may not have been right to do that. I'm trying to remember exactly what I was thinking because I don't normally kill Ornithopter, but I remember I had a reason. I remember going through the mental process of, well, I wouldn't normally kill it, but this time I'm going to. So I'm actually, in this scenario, I'm glad that I did, simply because he didn't have a very productive turn. Man, we are really flooding on Geists. He didn't have a super productive turn, and now he's sort of forced to, he's going to have to use his mana a little bit more awkwardly because he has to animate if he wants to equip the plating. happy here to go ahead and just trade a Bolt for this Steel Overseer. So we did draw third land right on time. Unfortunately, it wasn't a white source. But we're actually not looking terrible. What we're really scared of at this point, more than anything, is I was really hoping that second was like another creature or something, so we could get a ton of value out of Electrolyze. What was I saying? I don't remember what I was saying. But, okay, so here, I believe I either went Electrolyze to try to draw into a white source, or I went Snapcaster Mage Bolt to start applying pressure. Let's see. It looks like I went Electrolyze, which is fine. Another white card with no white mana, so things are a little awkward. In that situation, we could, like, normally I think maybe Snap Bolt would have been better, so you can start attacking with the Snapcaster Mage, but considering our mana situation, I think Electrolyzing was right. Alright, so here I'm definitely going to Snap Bolt. And obviously I just wasn't going to do anything until my opponent kind of completely tapped himself out. Not that it shouldn't matter, but so by going Snap Bolt here now, we can at least start applying some pressure and attempting to end the game. And we do have another Snap and another Bolt, so considering that we're kind of stumbling on our colors, we're actually not doing that bad. That moves around a lot. Can I hit F2? No. Okay. Yep, so that's what we did there. Untap and draw a Bolt. Alright, more removal is good, but at this point he's got one card in hand. I'm actually kind of looking to get a Geist in play and just shut this game down. Alright, same scenario. Opponent's at 17. By going Snap Bolt, we can put him to 13 next turn, which is looking good. So that's definitely the plan here. Our opponent also sort of kind of constrained on mana, so he's really only able to do like one thing a turn here, which is definitely working to our benefit. All right, keep it open then. I just hate how it keeps moving the thing I'm clicking on. Okay, so that's what we did there. The fact that we have this Bolt, everything's still looking pretty good for us. An Etched Champion could potentially be disastrous because we can't punch through it, we can't kill it, and then he's going to put plating on. So really, we do want to end the game as quickly as we can. Didn't have any way to interact with our opponent's Thoughtcast, but if we did, we definitely would have. So here, if when we attack with our Snapcaster Mages, that puts our opponent at 9. If we attack with the Snapcaster Mages again, that puts the opponent at 5. So it's still like with these snaps, it's still 3 attacks. Rather, no, it's with the Snapcaster Mages, if we fire this Bolt off, we shorten the clock by 1 if we just keep attacking with the Snapcaster Mages. It's 3 attacks instead of 4, but I think I decided I wasn't quite ready to commit to that plan. Drew another white card. Ooh, that went really way too fast. We attacked. That was it. There wasn't really anything to see. So I actually opted not to Bolt. And I wonder if that was a mistake now that I'm looking at this again. Let's see if I had bolted. What I decided was, the longer the game goes, what I decided at the time was that if Steel Overseer if he wants to trade a Snapcaster Mage with a Steel Overseer, that was fine. Maybe that was wrong if I bolted Steel Overseer. I know where I really decided, because I decided not to bolt it because at the time I just had this one removal spell that I could actually cast. So I actually kind of wanted him to trade just so that I could kill it without having to use removal. Otherwise, if I bolted Steel Overseer and attacked, maybe it still would have been fine because I'm at 18. I haven't done the math, but then my opponent activates a plating and there's nothing that I can do about it. So that's like that's really interesting. So if I bolted Steel Overseer, opponent would now be at 5. Now if he animates, equips, that's 2 platings, and he has one. That would be 1 artifact, 2 artifacts, 3, 4, 5. So it would have been a 10, 11. So we would have been dead in 2 attacks, whereas, let's see, it's pretty close, because actually he'd be at 5. We'd go to, yeah, I still think it might have been better to kill it, because basically let's say we had killed it with a bolt, he would be at 5 right now. I don't know what his play is, but if he just does what we said, if he animates with this, equips this, and then equips another one, just doing this again, he has 3, 4, and this is also an artifact, so 5. So these are worth 10, plus 11. So he attacks, we go to 7. We attack him, and then he goes to 1. And if we can't cast a burn spell, then we're dead on his next swing. So I actually think that line was better, because now we trade with the Steel Overseer, we put him to 7, but we get another draw step here because we're going to be able to kill whatever he puts the platings on. So let's see what happened here. So it actually again, this is not knowing we're going to draw this click. So if we had bolted, just drawn like not the click, I guess it might have been fine, because like if we drew a plains, maybe we would have been able to block or something. Anyway, I'm going to say that the right call was to do what I did because I lived. But so basically the other thing is, our opponent's at a low life total, so maybe if he's willing to trade the bolts better to the face. But so basically what happened here is we just took the damage, flashed in Vendilion Click, because now we get to just attack him with Click and Snapcaster Mage. And I think I clicked myself, put a Geist on the bottom, he already knew about it. Yeah, and so then attacked and bolted for the win. Just again, still thinking about that turn. Yeah, this was definitely better. Because if we didn't draw this click, then we may have just died his gigantic attack. But it all worked out. Okay, so let's watch game 2. I guess I can talk about the sideboard briefly. One moment. Okay, pretty sure this is how I boarded in the matchup. I believe I took out all of the Geist of St. Traft. a Cryptic, the 2 Remands, and a Restoration Angel, and I brought in 2 Stony Silence. I brought in 2 Sweepers, a Staticaster, Wear Tear, Explosives, and Karanos. Now, Stony Silence and Explosives are kind of a nombo, but they're both really good in the matchup, so I think that it's worth it. Geist is, it's interesting. You can sometimes occasionally race Affinity with the Geist, but I think that those situations are harder to develop. So I think you're just better off just bringing in all of your Haymaker spells. And the Restoration Angel, you're removing a threat, but too many restos don't really do anything for you in the early game. It's fine to just draw them later. I think 2's fine. I think it's worth it to say take out a Restoration Angel in favor of any of these cards. So that's how I sideboarded. Let's check out the game here. This is a really clear keep. We have turn 1 Bolt into turn 2 Stony Silence. And we even have it, is it Staticaster? So here I actually decided to, so if our opponent, say our opponent plays like Darksteel Citadel next turn, he has access to 1 from Darksteel Citadel, 2, and then he can activate this for 3. So he gets to further develop his board. If we just take our turn and bolt this, then we deny him access to potentially, like, he would have played another Ornithopter if he had it. So basically we just give him less mana. We let him develop his board. We slow him down. I think slowing him down is worth the life points, because then we're going to, especially if his land's Darksteel Citadel, then we're gonna bolt this. He's gonna play Citadel, do whatever it is he does. Doesn't really matter. And then we're going to play Stony Silence. Then Darksteel Citadel does nothing. Yeah, so that's actually what we did, which I don't think you can ask for kind of a better turn of events on the draw. Like I said earlier, I don't normally kill the Ornithopter unless I think there's a good reason to. So let's say that our opponent had like an Etched Champion there. That would have been much worse for us. But now it's possible that our opponent never gets enough mana into play to actually play an Etched Champion. Plus, he looks like he mulliganed a lot. He's only got 1 card in hand, and we drew an Anger of the Gods. So this game's probably just already done. And as you can see here, our opponent conceded with Stony Silence on the stack. So, game 1, even though our mana was kind of awkward, managed to have some nice draws. And I think we played our spells in a sequence that allowed us to win that game. And then here we just kind of had an awesome cards to find in our opening hand. So that was round 1 of the league against Affinity. Hold on just a moment, and I will bring you guys the second round. Okay, so this was round 2 of the league. I accidentally clicked. Let me just start that over so we can talk about that. Okay, so this is round 2 of the league. This hand has Geist, which in the Jeskai version, I don't really like seeing hands that are like Bolt, Snap, Counter. I mean, they're fine, but that's not really the type of deck that we're trying to be. I mean, obviously you keep those hands, but I really like hands that have a threat like Geist or Angel in them as well, preferably Geist, obviously. But this hand just has like 0 interaction. Like if our opponent's on something quick, this hand does nothing. The only decks that this hand would be good against are like some kind of slow deck that doesn't have any answers to Geist. There's not many of those in Modern, so clearly this is a mulligan. This is unfortunate, but we get a draw step. We have a Serum Visions, and we actually get, like, if we manage to scry a land, then we can just draw that land. So I kept this one, even though I'm not a big fan of keeping one-landers, but on the draw, so we get to draw our scry for sure, and we have a Serum Visions in hand. I decided to go ahead and just roll the dice. There was a land on top, so obviously I put it on top. Affinity again. We have some removal, but we're going to lead on... we're going to be leading on Celestial Colonnade, so that's not great, but just kind of have to hope that our opponent doesn't have a blistering fast start. Which he didn't. I mean, obviously there, like, Mox Opal would have been great for him. But as it stands, we're kind of only taking one. So here I decided that since Affinity is so explosive, it was really important to set up our next draw. We had a Path to Exile for whatever creature he decides to equip Cranial Plating to. So I felt that it was worth it to go ahead and fetch and shock so that we can cast the Path to Exile. We then get to follow it up with a pain-free white source for Helix or Snap Path or something like that. So that's what I did. I believe I put the Geist on the bottom. This isn't updating. Sometimes this doesn't work in the replays. And I want to say I kept the Click on top. And my plan was just to kind of use Click as a removal spell. Alright, so before Battle Cry can trigger, go ahead and Path to Exile the Signal Pest. Ornithopter then doesn't really do anything. I did keep the Click on top. I was actually happy that he equipped the Cranial Plating to the Ornithopter, because at first I was thinking, oh man, he's going to equip it to Vault Scourge, and then he's going to gain a bunch of life, and that'll be kind of annoying because any burn that might go to his face, it sort of counters. We just have to work backwards from there. But he equipped it to the Ornithopter. Now I think our hand's pretty good, so I didn't see a reason to click myself. I believe I still clicked him, because I mean obviously I still have more removal spells. Snapcaster Mage. Clearly we're going to put the Arcbound Ravager on the bottom. And then just go ahead and trade off with this Ornithopter. Let him gain one life. It's okay. Do another removal spell. Passed back. Because our opponent kind of hasn't drawn one of his acceleration spells, he is sort of forced to decide, like... Yeah, he can play the Vault Scourge for one, but he's kind of forced to, like, spend his mana to go all in on this, which just makes our removal better. So this was similar to the other game, or the other round, maybe it was. Obviously, we could have used any of these spells to deal with this. It is definitely more mana efficient. We get to Snap Path, but the other nice thing is by Snap Pathing, we get to put some pressure into play. And since we already path something, they usually only run one basic. This path should be better than usual. Yeah, and he did fail to find a land, so good for us. Why am I... Oh yeah, this is just round one, so I haven't actually boarded here yet. So I'm drawing Geists that I normally wouldn't. Attacked, it was fine if he traded. Just continuing to remove his creatures. So if you're ever in a situation like this, you definitely want to go ahead and kill the Arcbound Ravager right away, because he has no other creatures. He has nothing to do with the counter, so he gets no extra value. So I definitely pathed it right away, and he can't activate his Inkmoth Nexuses or anything. I want to say from memory, and just by looking at the battlefield, our opponent's at 13. He only has 2 artifacts in play, 2 cards in hand. One of them's probably like a Galvanic Blast, but I thought that, yeah, I thought like, this is a really good time to play Geist because we're going to be able to close the game down really quickly. It's very unlikely that we're going to die on our next turn. It's probably impossible. So we can definitely take a hit. And we actually get to... so our opponent's going to put us to 9, but we're going to be able to attack for 8. And if you count this Helix, 9, 10, 11. So... and that'll still help us win this race, but we may also just be able to kill it. So we have lots of options here. We can Helix something. We can flash in a Restoration Angel. So here's the line that I chose. I chose to Helix, and the reason is our opponent's kind of hasn't... he's been playing like he has a Galvanic Blast because he hasn't been... he's been playing threats, but he's had a couple of cards in his hand. It seems like that he hasn't really been doing anything with. So if we go Restoration Angel block, if he Galvanic Blasts it before blockers, then we just lose. And he probably has a Galvanic Blast. So I think the best play here is to actually just Helix the creature. That means, too, that depending on what he plays, we may be able to... so here's what that actually means. That means that basically, if he has a Galvanic Blast, he has to use it next turn, or else he's just dead to our attack because we have lethal on board. That means that there's a chance that if we don't kill him, then the Galvanic... basically, if we don't kill him, he can animate this guy, and I think it was like... was it 9? It was 9 or 11 damage, but if he doesn't have another artifact to play, then we get to live. The other... basically, it's not enough damage to kill us. And the other nice option is, if he uses a Galvanic Blast in his hand, if he only has 1, if he uses that Galvanic Blast to survive our next attack, then there's more likelihood, if we don't draw a removal spell, that our Restoration Angel can successfully block the Blinkmoth Nexus. It actually should be 1, it might even be 1 damage less than it was previously. So we actually drew Remand, so we've just won the game, basically, because he's going to try to Galvanic Blast, which he did have it, but we have the Remand. He only has 1 open mana. So that worked in our favor. Now, one thing to consider is if they get Basic Island, there's less of a chance, I think, that they're on Blood Moon. They still could be, but I was already getting this sneaky suspicion that he was on Blood Moon because he's kind of doing the basic mountain version of the deck. So let's check out the second. Okay, so this was game 2 of round 2. This hand looks reasonable. It has 2 removal spells and an early Stony Silence. So again, I'm pretty happy to keep it. Now, immediately, this was my thought. My opponent has a Blood Moon in hand. The reason is he went Citadel, Drum, Opal, and didn't do anything else. Didn't have any creatures to play. So I'm thinking he kept a hand with like a turn 2 Blood Moon. So I immediately played the Flooded Strand so I could get a basic Plains for the Stony Silence. And then Path, and we can actually cast all of our hand if that happens to us. unfortunately, is exactly what happened. So we got the planes, and then started a very strange game that I feel like I could have won, but I kind of threw away a couple of times, and I'll point those out to you. I guess I'm sort of spoiling, but... So we're just going to click through here because we just went draw, go. I don't even know that I necessarily like Blood Moon. Like it... You'll see, but it basically kind of shuts down his own manlands, which are a big part of how that deck functions. So at this point I was like, okay, well, if we're just going to do this, maybe I should start targeting this burn at his face. Okay, so here's where here's one area I think I made a small mistake. So clearly I'm going to flash in Restoration Angel here. But notice, like, my opponent can't make any colored mana right now. And our mana's already in a situation where we're going to be really limited on what we could do. So if he has a Galvanic Blast, then he answers our threat. And at first, when I drew it, I was like, great, now we can win the game. His deck's very crippled, but we have a threat. So this happens. And he actually... So he went to go put a +1/+1 counter on this Arcbound Ravager. And I shouldn't have cared. But I was thinking about denying him the value. But now if I'm expecting my Restoration Angel to live, then maybe I should just be saving the burn for his face, because that's how I'm trying to win the game. And I shouldn't really care about the little bits of power that he has on the board, especially if I can just Helix his face and, you know, kind of negate the damage that he did. So I didn't, though. I killed the Thopter, and then I killed the Ravager. So he had an empty board, which I think that was probably a mistake. So yeah, I get to attack with Restoration Angel. And here's the other mistake I made. I should have pathed my Angel, and I considered it. But I was like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I'll find a way to, I don't know, maybe I'll draw another Angel or something. But the thing is, I already had a removal spell in my hand. So I just should have gotten the blue mana into play. That way, if I draw, like, Snapcaster Mage, then all of my bolts are alive that I have in the graveyard. Same with the Helix. But I let it go, and then really quickly I began immediately regretting it. I also realized that, man, if I had gotten that island, what if I draw Karanos? And then I drew Karanos, and I was like, okay, well, you really sort of screwed this up. Because right now we could have played Karanos, definitely won the game. And actually, if those two bolts we had fired off earlier had gone to our opponent's face, he would have been at 9. This bolt would have had him at 6. We could have cast the Serum Visions. The game probably would have already been over at this point with Karanos. This Snapcaster Mage would have been live to get another Helix. So yeah, I definitely screwed this one up. And the main one was, I just shouldn't have cared about the little creatures that he had in play. I could have killed them at any point, and he's not like threatening lethal at any time. And I should have just, you know, again, like I said, if I'm on the plan to kill him with the Restoration Angel as quickly as possible, then because those creatures don't represent any real threat, it's better to just save the burn for the face. So basically, this just started a really awkward game where I was like, please draw island, please draw island. Just so I could get the Karanos in play. I ended up feeling like I needed to kill some of his creatures. So again, more burn that should have gone to the face that didn't. As the game went on, I continued to draw more burn, but I couldn't even do anything with it because of the Chalice. I have Stony Signs in place, so Electrolytes doesn't do anything. I'm still just hoping to draw Island. Like, I could still get out of this if I can draw an Island. Chronos could just do a ton of work here. So, let's see. Snap, Helix is 10. Then this is... These put him to 4. Yeah. Well, I guess I drew those after the Chalice, but... Yeah, basically this game just would have been over a long time ago had I done things differently. So this just continued. Me unable to do anything. Opponent was finally able to draw his Edge Champion. We're able to buy ourselves a little bit more time with this Anger of the Gods. Another Blood Moon, which... You know, at one point I was also like, well, if we draw a Wear Tear, then I can fuse it and kill Blood Moon and Chalice. And then win the game that way. But, ultimately we just ended up dying in kind of a like sort of insult, like an insult, if you will, or insult to injury, whatever. I finally drew the blue source, but obviously we're just dead. So I think I went ahead and obviously I don't think there's any way we can win, but maybe we draw a Wear Tear or something and find a way. Probably not though. So he played a Torpor Orb. I cast Snapcaster Mage. He looks his face. We went to 2, and then I believe I died. Okay, no, so I quit there, I guess. Okay, so that's how that matchup went. Again, could have won, didn't. Let's look at the third game. Okay, game 3 of round 2. I'm on the play. So this hand is interesting. It has answers in the form of Spell Snare to the most dangerous things in the deck, except for Edge Champion. And what I have the potential to do is basically play my land. Oh, here's the other thing. It has a White Source, which is great. So these can both get islands, and then we're much better set up to fight against Blood Moon. So the other thing I can do is I can just sit on the Serum Visions, and if he has like a turn 1 plating, then I can go ahead and counter it. As it stands, he had a Vault Scourge, and since I didn't have any real removal yet, I was like, well, I can go ahead and Spell Snare this, and then get another island next turn, and Serum Visions, and hold up Spell Snare. So that's what I did. I Spell Snared that, got the other island that I knew we were going to need. Now I get to set up my draws. This is great. We have a Wear Tear, we have a Helix, and we have a Spell Snare, so all things considered, it's going pretty well. I was really hoping he would play like Plating or something, but he played a Relic, which is kind of annoying. But not the end of the world. So the main reason that I shocked there was I wasn't under an immense amount of pressure, and now I can Spell Snare and wear something. Like I've said before, sometimes against Affinity it's important to just be able to cast your spells quickly, even at the expense of some damage. Ravager is a clear Spell Snare target. That's one of the reasons Spell Snare is in the deck to begin with in the format, and one of the reasons it stays in here. I don't know that it was worth it, but there's sort of a potential missed opportunity. We could have gone Wear Tear, the Relic, untap, play Plains, kill the Ornithopter, then his Glimmer Void dies. But it seemed more important to just keep the Wear Tear for the really scary things. So we're kind of in a position here where if our Angel lives, we're actually probably doing quite well. unfortunately, it died. Now, this is interesting because if we had killed the relic, I still don't think that can't be the right way to use Wear Tear. But if we had killed the relic, he would have sacked it a response. Then we untap, kill the Ornithopter. Glimmer Void dies. Then he doesn't even have the colored mana to kill our Angel, but we wouldn't have played it this turn because we would have Helixed this turn. So there was that to consider as well. But I think it's probably worth keeping an eye on his lands. Ensnaring Bridge. Now this is, you're going to see that the guy has a lot of hate. He has, now we know he has Bridges, he has Blood Moons, he has Relic of Progenitus, he has Torpor Orb. You know, I get the feeling that he might be diluting his deck a little too much. This is a long video. Okay, so here, I'm not really worried about the Ornithopter. And now that he's played the Ensnaring Bridge, it feels like it could potentially be worse for him. He's so few cards in hand. I was kind of surprised that he didn't go ahead and Relic. But, you know, we know he's going to play Blood Moon. And here's actually, this is my mental state at this point. I'm like, Okay, so I have 2 removal spells. And he's got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures. And I was feeling a little worried, like, how am I going to kill all of these things? Like, if he just starts, you know, animating them, he's eventually going to grind through the bit of removal that I have. And then he played Blood Moon. He played Blood Moon, and then his Ornithopter couldn't attack. He should, at the very least, I think, attacked with Ornithopter before he played the Blood Moon. But suddenly I was like, well, this is annoying. But now I don't have to suddenly worry about all these manlands, and I feel like it bought me a bunch of time. He can't activate his manlands, and if he draws anything with 2 toughness or 2 power, he can't attack either. So it seemed a little strange to me. What this is really supposed to be for, I think, is you have double black, you attack with something like an Ornithopter, and then you equip Cranial Plating to it at instant speed. And now I'm kind of on this, alright, I think I'm just going to try to burn you out plan. You don't have any creatures. That was kind of probably another mistake. He should have just attacked the Ornithopter before he played his Mox Opal. So at this point, what I was hoping for, I was like, well, if I draw a Colonnade, maybe one thing I can do is if he ever taps out his manlands, I can start burning him out to the point where I can Wear Tear. Assuming his manlands are tapped, I can then untap and maybe finish the job with Burn and Colonnade. So that was kind of my thought. I still think our opponent should be cracking this Relic at this point. Alright, so there's the Colonnade. So now I kind of have this plan in mind. So I'm ready to execute that. Okay, so I didn't do that yet. I was actually happy for this because him gaining life, like if he draws a card, attacks with this, gains a life, it actually kind of makes our burn him out plan worse. So I was definitely fine to go ahead and Electrolyze the Vault Scourge. It also deals 1 to our opponent. And I think at this point I started shooting burn at his face. Torpor Orb, again, it's another annoying card. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Am I Wear Tearing, you know, this and this or this and this? I was still pretty much on the hope that these get tapped. And if he does, fire off the rest of our burn, Wear, Tear, and kill him. Alright, so I started sending the burn upstairs, kind of preempting this plan. The thing is, though, it's not really going to work unless he, at some point, taps his man lands, because if I once I kill Blood Moon, his man lands are active to block. So I just kind of had hope that he tapped his man lands. But then he played another Blood Moon, and so I was like, all right, how am I going to use this weird turn now? At this point, it just seemed like, all right, well, I probably need to save it for plating at this point. I was hesitant to use the Helix there, again, because now that he has 2 Blood Moons, I don't know that I'm probably never going to get to activate my Colonnade. The other thing was, I mean, again, I'm not totally dead. I just really want him to crack this Relic so that then I can cast these and they go to the graveyard. 1 damage just isn't scary when you're holding a bunch of Helixes. And I was determined not to make the same mistake as last time, which is use the burn when I shouldn't have, and then not be able to burn him out because I killed creatures that didn't matter. So there's the plating. Interestingly, though, if he equips the plating, then this can't attack. And because these Glimmer Voids are mountains, he can't make double black to equip it at instant speed. So really, like, this is messing him up. This is messing him up. I think if he hadn't played these cards, we could have just lost this game. So again, let loose with more burn. I felt pretty safe in doing that because I have this for the plating. I can also kill a creature. Do the Karanos, which is just definitely game over. Opponent's at 5. Another planing. Again, same situation. He just can't equip them. His hate cards are hating on himself. It was a Helix. Deal the 5 damage to him. Helix our opponent. That's the game. So definitely a weird game against Affinity, but I was glad that we won. So that means that in this new league, we are currently 2-0. Stay tuned to see how the rest of it plays out. Again, this is the deck here, and I boarded the same way against that Affinity list. And just for the record, while I was recording that, Craig did reply. I'd asked him how Izzet Charm was, because I've actually found Izzet Charm to be pretty reasonable. It's never been dead. Even in the late game, you can cycle it away. Against aggressive decks, you're happy to have extra removal. Against combo, you're happy to have a counter. And it looks like it's performing for him as well. He said it overperformed in most of his matchups. This is kind of interesting. Looting in response to Living End. Never would have thought of that. And so I guess allowing Geist to survive multiple combat steps, I'm assuming that just meant that he was able to kill some creatures with it. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to run the Izzet Charm. In fact, I think that's enough information for me to go ahead and solidify my decision to run the Izzet Charm. And if I'm only going to run 1 extra counter, I like Logic not as a 1-of more than I like Mana Leak as a 1-of. So this is likely to be my 75 for this weekend. For those of you, before I let you go, and I know this video is so long, I don't know if any of you guys are Legacy aficionados, but if you are, I'm going to play Jeskai Stoneblade. I could play Esper. I don't know, maybe I should play Esper. It's either going to be Esper Stoneblade or Jeskai Stoneblade. If it's Jeskai Stoneblade, it's probably going to look something like this. I feel more comfortable with Jeskai Stoneblade. This is pretty basic. It's got the 4 Ponders, 4 Brainstorms, 4 Bolt, 4 Path, 4 Stoneforge. I use a 3rd Snapcaster Mage. I know that sometimes people are only running 2, but that's when Dig Through Time was legal. Since we have all of these cheap cards, I think we want to up our number of Snapcaster Mages. 3 is probably a good number. Conversely, if I'm going to run... That's not that Rest in Peace art. If it's going to be Esper Stoneblade, maybe something like this. I I think I'm not good at playing either, but I think I'm better at playing Jeskai than I am Esper. Anyway, we'll see. I'll talk to the Spike Feed guys about it. Definitely talk to Curtis about it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I know this video was long, so for those of you that were actually interested in sitting through the whole thing, thank you. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, draw well, smash face.